everyone, it's Kathy and welcome back here to my YouTube channel, Kathy's Random Acts of Stampin', and in my craft room. I am so glad that you joined me today. We are doing this fun fold card today. Now, I did use some older DSP, Designer Series paper, on this card, but anything that has the color that you want to use on the side will work. So I want to show you what this card looks like when you open it, because that's the magic. This looks like just any regular card, but when you open it, you've got this beautiful fun fold that opens up like this. This card is one that I call mantle worthy because you can sit it up like this and enjoy the beauty of the inside. Or you could set it up like this and enjoy the beauty from the front. So it's totally up to the recipient how they want to display the card. And you're probably thinking, well, where would you sign it? If you have a white gel pen, you could easily sign down here, but you have a space on the back where you could glue another piece of cardstock, write a personal note to the person, or you could make a pocket back here and slide a note inside of it. So there's a lot of options for where you would want to put your sentiment or your note to the person that you're giving it to. I made this a thank you card because we need thank you cards all the time. And I thought this was such a beautiful, beautiful card. And I did some heat embossing, as you can see. I did stamping on the front. We've got some embossing, dry embossing done with embossing folder. And we've got some beautiful stamped images that's been die cut. And I topped it off with some ribbon and some of the basic rhinestone jewels. So, with all that being said, I'm going to show you, I have a template for y'all, and it will be in the PDF. And this is to help you make this card easier. So for your front and back piece, your back piece is 5.5 by 4 1/4. And of course, your mat that you're going to put on it, which will be this piece back here, the mat, the blue embossed piece, that is 4 by 5 1/4. So that's your back. Then for your front, you're going to have one panel that is 1 3/4 by 5 1/2. And you're going to have a mat that's 1.5 by 5 1/4. All of this will be on the blog along with the diagrams of the pieces. So I want to make it easy for you. The other part of your front piece is 3 by 5 1/2. And that's your front. And to mat that, you would need a piece that is 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. So very simple. If you look at it like this is your front and this is your back. Now, I'm going to lay it out like this because I want to show you the piece that goes inside is, and this piece will go over top a little bit like that, so the pieces will be the same size. And then your piece that goes in the middle is 4 3/4 this way by 11 inches this way. And it will go down right in the middle of each piece, and that's how your card comes together. And you're going to score this at 2 3/4, 5 1/2, and 8 1/4. And then you're going to need 4 mats to go in here. And you can decide if you want Designer Series paper all the way through, or whether you want to put a white piece somewhere like I did. I used the blue, and then I embossed it with white embossing powder with my sentiments. So with all that being said, let me get started on this and I'll show you exactly what we need to do. So I'm going to lay my pieces over here so that I have my measurements to look at, because, even with that, the set that I used to decorate that, like I said, the Designer Series paper is retired, so it's not available, but you can get other papers that you can coordinate, and I'm going to show you that today, how we can use a different set and different paper and still get a beautiful effect. What I used on this one was the Nature's Print and Natural Prints, and it's a beautiful die set and stamp set. This was carried over in our annual catalog, and you can see these are the pieces I used, the ferns, and then I die cut the little sprigs, which are here, and I put those in white. So that's what I used for this one. Now I have an entirely different system for my next one. I also use the Distress Tile embossing folder because I love it, and I'll probably use that again. So I'm going to lay that over here. Today we're going to be working with another beautiful set called Magical Meadow. And again, this one has some beautiful foliage, some beautiful images, and we've got some beautiful sentiments that we can use. And along with the dies are gorgeous as well. And we can stamp some images or we can just die cut some images. I think this is absolutely beautiful the way they made this. So we'll be working with both the stamps and the dies as we go along. But the first thing we want to do is get all of our pieces cut. And you might say, well, okay, what are we going to use to cut our pieces? Well, I brought out a pack of paper, and this one is called Winter Meadow, and it actually pairs with that set that I showed you. Now, I want to use this piece, and most people would think, oh, you're going to cut a piece off of this corner. I'm going to cut a piece off of this corner because I think that's going to be beautiful for that. But before we get started, this is in the mini catalog. You can see my yellow sticker right there. This paper is glorious. We're going to be using this particular. No, I'm not going to use that pattern. I used that yesterday. I'm going to be using this piece right here, and I am going to cut it off. And we're going to bring in some Misty Moonlight. It will pair beautifully with that. Look how pretty that is. And you know what? I want to try something different. Let me see if I can get Bella away from my chair so I can move without running over her. Orchid Oasis. I want to see what Orchid Oasis looks like with it. It didn't say Orchid Oasis was a color, but you know what? I think the Orchid Oasis is beautiful. So now I have a dilemma. Do I want Orchid Oasis or do I want Misty Moonlight? And there's mauve in here. We could always go with a bit of mauve. I think I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the Misty Moonlight. That was my first inclination, and sometimes you just need to go with it. So let's go ahead and go with the Misty Moonlight. Now, I'm going to lay this up out of my way for a minute because we're going to cut our pieces first, and I need my trimmer. And for this, you're going to need 2 pieces of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. So I have my 2 pieces of Misty Moonlight, and I'm going to bring my trimmer down so you can see where I'm cutting. The first thing we're going to need to do is cut our 2 pieces for our base. So for this, I'm going to cut this piece on the 11-inch side to the top of my trimmer, and I'm going to cut this at, make sure I got my pieces right so I can cut those off. All right, I'm going to cut this at 5.5. So all we're doing is cutting this piece in half. So there's 5.5, and then I'm going to turn it and cut it at 4 1/4. And like I said, you're not going to have to worry about getting any of these measurements. Everything's going to be on my blog, and I'll put a link to my blog under this video. So all you'll have to do is click on it. Try to make it easy for you. All right, now out of this piece, we're going to need to cut one piece that is 3 inches. That's the other half of that one piece I cut. So 3 inches. And then we're going to need another piece that's a little bit wider than that because we need that to lap over when we put it together. So this piece needs to be 1 3/4. And see, this one's not. It's 1 1/4. So we're going to lay that over as a scrap. And I'm going to bring this piece in and I'm going to cut it on the 8.5-inch side because it's already 5.5. This way. We're going to cut this piece at 1 3/4. So line it up to the 1 3/4 mark and slice it. And there's your other piece. Now we've got our front completely done and out of our way. Now we need to cut this piece. Then this piece, we need to cut it long ways because we need an 11-inch piece and it needs to be 4 3/4 wide. So what I'm going to do is bring it to 3 3/4. I mean, 4 3/4, almost 5. And we're going to bring that down and we're going to slice it. This is your scrap, so lay it to the side. This is your piece that you're going to be working with. All right, so we're going to score this, and I'm going to bring my scoreboard up for this because I want to make sure that my score marks are accurate. And I have misplaced my stylus from this. You know, it always snaps in right here at the bottom. And I have laid it somewhere and I have not been able to find it. And I have looked everywhere. Well, when I say everywhere, maybe not, because if I had looked everywhere, I would have found it by now. I'm looking to see if I accidentally stuck it over here in my pools. But I don't see it. So we're going to go with it. And what I did so that I would have a stylus, you take your pick tool, comes with an extension. It comes with one of these that is a stylus. So I can take out my pick and my spatula end and put in we'll go with the smaller end. I can bring in my stylus, and now I have a stylus that I can go ahead and score with. So we're going to score at 2 3/4. We're going to score at 5 1/2. And we're going to score at 8 1/4. And those are our only score marks you need to make. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over and we're going to fold and fold and fold. So you're basically doing an accordion fold. When you finish, you should have valley, mountain, and valley. If you don't, then just manipulate it so that this piece is going to go down because these two end pieces are going to secure to the card base itself to give you that fold in the middle. So once you get that folded, now all of your base pieces are cut. So we can move that scoreboard over out of our way for a moment. And now we need to bring the trimmer back in because now we're ready to trim out and cut our designer series paper. So the first thing I want to do is I want to cut a piece that's going to go on my front. So on my two front pieces, I know that I want my mat to be 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to cut this off right here at 2 and see, do I want to do it on this end? No, I think I want it right here. So I'm going to cut this at 2 3/4, so almost at 3. So now I know that I want this piece here to go on my front. Do I want it to go like this? Or do I want it like that? I think I'm going to do it like this. So I'm going to cut this piece off at 5 1/4. So let's bring the trimmer back down. And I'm going to slide that in like so and go to 5 1/4. And slice. All right, there's our mat for that piece. So I'm going to lay that up to the over to the side. Now I need to cut my piece for my back. And for the back, I think I want this right here. And this piece we're going to need 4 by 5 1/4. So 4 inches. By 5 1/4. And this will be for our back piece. So that will go like that. It won't be on that white though. Those are my templates. Then we need our panels for this. We're going to need 4 panels that are 2 1/2 by 4 1/2. So this is where I'm going to use some of the scraps that I had left over with this and a little bit of this. So we've got plenty of scraps left here like this. I think one of these inside would be pretty. So let's do this piece first, 2 1/2. let's cut it at 4.5 first. 4.5. And it needs to be 4.5 by 2.5. So take that side off. Right, that gives us one panel. And I need one more. That one's not quite long enough, so we're going to take it from here. So we're going to go to 2.5. By 4.5. And cut that there. And then that gives us the map for both sides. And since this is going to be on Misty Moonlight, I think my inside pieces, I believe my inside pieces I'm going to do in a white. And I had a piece of white cardstock, I thought. Oh, I do. It's right here. I knew I brought out a piece of white so I would have it. I'm going to cut 2 more of those at 2.5 by 4.5. So 2.5. And then we can get 2 out of this at 4.5. And 1 more at 4.5. All right. So now hopefully we don't need the trimmer or the scoreboard again. Now I'm going to take all of my scraps and I'm just going to lay everything up here together. So if I need to pull something else out because I haven't gotten what I need, I'll have it right there ready to go. So here are our cut pieces. I'm going to take everything now off of my template. Oh, I did need, yeah, I cut that. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. We're going to need a piece of white to go here. And that piece is going to be 1.5 by 5.25. So grab the white. Thought I was done cutting, and then I realized I had not cut that piece. So this piece is going to be 1.5 by 5.25. Okay. So now I think we've got all of our pieces cut. We're going to do some embossing. So to emboss this card, we're going to do a little bit of fancy footwork. Let me pull all of my mats down. So this is the mat for that. And this is the mat for this. And this, I think with this one, we're only going to do embossing on a couple of pieces, and they're going to be the white pieces. But you know what? It's still going to be beautiful. So let's go ahead and run this piece through our embossing folder. So I'm going to lay this into my folder like so. And you know the little registration marks are right here, so you can always line that up perfectly on that line. And that way you can ensure that your piece won't come out looking a little wonky. So let me move that piece over here. And I only need one plate for this, so I'm putting my piece down and a plate over it. And I'm going to run this through my big strut switch. So that piece has been embossed, and let's see if we need to emboss anything else. We might need to stamp before we emboss anything. Okay, so there's our piece that will go on this piece. Isn't that pretty? So pretty. And then we can go ahead and put this piece on. So let's get our glue gun out and go ahead and start assembling. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on the back of this piece, and we're going to assemble our card before we do any stamping or anything. We're going to get all of our mats put down where they need to go. So glue on that piece, and I like to turn it sideways and line it up top, sides, like so. And then if you see you need to pull it down a little bit, you can. That's the beauty of using a liquid glue. Now, I prefer the art glitter glue, and I do have a link for that. And the art glitter glue looks like this, and that's what I have in my gun. I have my art glitter glue in there. I like the art glitter glue and the Barely art glue better than the Tombow, and it's a personal preference. I know there's many people that just absolutely swear by the Tombow glue. But I started out crafting using art glitter glue, and I was introduced to Barely Art because art glitter glue cannot be mailed in the winter. Now, Amazon will ship it to you, but I will tell anybody, if you need glue during the winter, get the Barely Art glue because it doesn't have a freeze point like the art glitter glue does. So you don't want your glue to freeze on its way to you. Now, these pieces are going to overlap each other, something like that, to form your base that is going to be 4 1/4. So I like to line it up on my grid mat. And if I line it up like this and make sure that I'm on the 4 1/4, then I can put this together and it'll be perfect. To do that, I like to use Stampin' Seal because this is really strong, and it gives me the ability to put just a strip straight down that edge where I need to glue. And if you go over the edge, just fold it back on itself like that. No problem at all. Now I'm going to lay this down, and I know that this needs to come over top of this, just where that glue's at. So I'm going to bring that to here. And then I'm going to measure it to make sure it's come over just a little bit more. So I'll put that on 4 1/4. And then I'm going to lay this down over it. Something like that. And once I'm satisfied with getting it straight, I want to make sure it matches up with this piece because this is the piece it needs to, and it does. Everything's lining up perfect. So now that I know that that's on there where it should be, I can go ahead and stick this down. Once I know it's where it needs to be, and I'm going to do that again to make sure, yep, that's good. Now I'm going to go ahead and seal that by giving it a good press. Now your front of your card is done. We need to put a little bit of glue on the back of this. I'm going to use Stampin' Seal because this is nice and strong. It works really well on your Designer Series paper because it doesn't wet it. And now this piece is going to go on this piece. Something like this. Not quite. Come up, come up. If you don't press it really tight, you can move it and readjust it. So you don't want to you don't want to press it down until you know you got it exactly where you want it. And that right there looks about right. Yes, that looks good. Then I give it a good press on both sides. The front and the back of our card is done. So it's going to be like this when you put your middle in. But I'm going to slide that up, and we're going to bring this piece in, and we're going to work on it. First thing I want to do is crease this really well. We folded it when we scored it, but we didn't give our pieces a good crease. So I'm going to come in with my bone folder and just really give this a good greasing. Okay, now that I got that creased really well, I am ready to go ahead and put my pieces on here where they need to go. And this is where you want to decide, do I want this here and this here? Do I want my two white pieces in the middle? And do I want to stamp and emboss? And I would say yes. Let's stamp and then emboss these pieces. I'll tell you what, we're going to hold off on this just for a minute. I'm going to grab another piece of my cardstock and I am going to do some stamping and die cutting. And we're going to use some of these pieces right here. So we're going to wait on our sentiments because I may use something out of this one. All right, to make this piece, I want to stamp that one, a couple of those, and a couple of those. And to do this, I think I'm going to go with, and I'm going to need a scratch of paper. So I'm going to bring in just a piece of notebook paper that I can stamp off on. So something like this. And I'm just going to set this over to my side. And I'm going to get some Misty Moonlight. And I may even do a Moody Mauve just for a little extra color on it, because we have that color in our, see the Moody Mauve in there? And I think this will be a good combination. So I'm going to move these pieces over here so I don't get ink on them. And we're going to work right here with our ink pad and our stamps. So let me grab a couple of stamp blocks. I know this one's going to fit well on this one. And let's see if this will fit on one of those, and it will. Then I'm going to need a little bit bigger one for this. So I'm going to grab this one. And I'm going to go ahead and do this one in the Moody Mauve. Let's move those up there. And I'm going to stamp it off. Let's see what it looks like for a second. That's the color I want. So I know now that I want to stamp it and then stamp off. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to stamp my piece. Perfect. That's the shade I want. All right, so we got that one. So maybe with this one, I'll do the Moody Mauve. And let's see if we want it full on or second generation. Slide this one up over here. I like the second generation. So we're going to do the stamp off on these because I think it gives you a softer color. And then we're going to stamp. Love it. We'll do another one of those. We're going to stamp off. And we'll stamp over here. All right, and now we're going to do this last one. And I think I'm going to do the Moody Mauve for it. And we're going to stamp off and then stamp on. And then stamp off. And stamp on. Okay, perfect. The reason I did it like this is I want to be able to cut these pieces so that when I run these through my die cut machine, I can I can cut two at a time. I know that's probably not making sense, but you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm just going to clean these stamps a little bit on this piece of paper, and then I will take these to my Stampin' Scrub after I get done. So I'm going to lay this piece over here because I'll probably use that piece of paper again. And I'm wondering, there was one more stamp in here that I really would love to stamp, and that's this one. So I'm going to do it. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it, but I'm going to try it. And I want that in the Moody Mauve. And let's stamp it right about here. Oh, love it. Do I want one in the blue as well? Maybe I do. You know, I'm always indecisive when I'm doing my crafting, and I know that some of you do the same thing. So I'm going to bring my Stampin' Scrub out now. I wasn't going to, but since I need to clean the stamp before I do it in the other one, I'm going to bring that out and cleans my stamp so nice. And you can just spray this with water. You don't even need, as long as you're using dye-base ink, which is all the Stampin' Up colors are, you do not need to put any type of cleaner on that. You can just do it with water, and it's always gorgeous. So where's my paper out? I'm going to stamp that. So that is kind of dark. I like it the second one. So let's do this. And then do this. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So let's close our ink pads up because y'all know that I can be a menace around an open stamp pad. So let's set those over to the side. And now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to use my big ones because I want to trim right up on these. Something like this. You're probably thinking, what are you doing? I'm going to cut there. And I did use the shimmer white for my die cutting. I'm going to take this piece out because I can use that to stamp something else. These I'm going to cut apart. And you're going to see why. You're going to understand all of the whys and wherefores once we get started. So I'm going to bring my die cut machine plates over, and I'm going to lay that down there, and this here, and this here. This way I'll be able to cut all of this at one time. So I'm going to grab my dies, and I'm going to find my dies that cuts out all of my cutesy pieces. Let's pull this one out. And I know this one goes to this, lined up like I need it. I know this one goes on this one. Again, line everything up as best you can. And then this big one does this piece right here. Might need a little piece of tape on this one. Has a tendency to want to move. So I take my time when I'm lining my dies up because if you don't, you can get miscuts and then you have to come back and trim. And sometimes even then I still have to trim a little bit. But you know, it's okay if I do. I do try my best to get these lined up really good. Now we're going to use our cover plate over it. And I'm going to shoot this through my machine. Now let's go ahead and take our pieces out. How pretty. There's one. There's two. And see, this one didn't get quite like I wanted it. But what I do with pieces like that is I just grab my paper snips and I come in and I just trim. I just do a little bit of trimming myself to make it look like I want it to. Like so. And that little piece is attached here. This is why the paper snips are so necessary to have because you can do a lot with these little scissors. They're very intricate and they just really get in there and allow you to fussy cut really well. So if you don't have a pair of paper snips, they're well worth the money. So let's take this one out. This one's pretty good. I like that one. And then let's look at this one. This one came out perfect. Beautifully cut. All right, so we got all of that done. So let's go ahead and take our dies off. And we're going to lay those over to the side because we know we're going to use some of these again on our other pieces. Get my tape over here, and I'm going to throw these scraps of paper into my trash can and bring this back up. Now we're ready to bring over these other two pieces, and we can lay those down like so. Grab the dies again that we know we need, and it's going to be this one. And this one. And this one. So once we get those where we need them to be, like that, just a little bit. Then we're going to lay this down. This is what we got now. Beautiful. All right, and we have all of our pieces die cut that we need to do. The only other thing we need, we're going to need a sentiment, and I really like the one that I used on this one, and that came out of the Meadow dies, and I still have those out. Showed them to you, but I think I might have. Oh, they're here. I'm glad I do because I want to cut a piece of. I want to cut this, and I think I want to do it in. Let me look at the front of my card. Let's get some of the things that I just finished using out of my way so we can free up some space. The front of my card is going to look like this. So I think I want the Misty Moonlight, and we will heat emboss it maybe. Do I want the Misty Moonlight? Or do I want white? I think I'm going to do white. I think I'm going to use the, I think I'm going to use a piece of the regular white cardstock. We'll stamp on that, and then we will die cut it. All right, so get my debris out of the way. Plates back over there. And this does go here. And I need to decide what I'm going to stamp. So looking at my Magical Meadow, I want something that's going to fit in here. So it may be that one right there, or we could just do Winter Wishes. Let's see if Winter Wishes would fit. Yeah, pretty well. Not as well as I like, but it might work. Let's see if this one will work. May the season of sparkle bring you joy and delight. I like that. And I think that might work. So you know what I'm going to do? If you're not sure, test it. The best way to find out if something's going to work is just simply test it. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to stamp it in my. Do I want to do that in the mauve? I think that might be pretty in the mauve. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just, I mean, we're playing, right? So let's have some fun. Make this a Christmas card. And see what happens. So I'm going to fan that just a minute to let that ink dry, and then we're going to lay this over it and see how that looks. Fits beautifully. So I'm gonna anchor it right where I want it, and I'm gonna bring my plates back over, and I'm gonna lay this on here, and we're gonna crank this through. All right. Now we have that done. I love it. It's so pretty. So I'm going to lay that up there with my die cut pieces. And this is going to go with my scraps. And this is going to go back into my natural print dies so I don't get them mixed up. It's always a good rule of thumb that if you remember to do it, and that's put your dies back where they belong so that you know that all the dies are back on the sheet that they came off of. And I try to make sure I do that every time I die cut. So sometimes it takes a little time and energy. Sometimes I do cut it out of my videos, but it is necessary. Okay, so we know this is going to go here and this is going to go here. We know that we've got two pieces here that we want to stamp on, but we want to emboss first. So I'm going to grab, yeah, let me stop right here, and I'm going to find some sentiments that I want to put on the inside, and we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I pulled the Brightest Glow stamp set. This was carried over from last year. It's in the annual catalog, but I absolutely love this for Christmas sentiments. You've got a large season's greeting, a nice big Merry Christmas, joy, Happy New Year, let your heart be light, all is merry and bright. So wishing you a season of hope and light. There are so many beautiful sentiments in this, and I'm going to use "'Tis the Season" on one piece, and "May the peace of the season light your world and make your new year be the brightest." If that will fit on here, we're going to use that one. It's always the question of whether or not your sentiment is going to fit, and that is going to fit right there. So that one's going to go there, and all is merry and bright's going to go right here. I think that'd be pretty. All right, so now we are going to decide what color ink. And I think for the inside, I'm going to stick with my Misty Moonlight and a couple of stamp blocks. And let's do this one first. I'm going to stamp on my little piece of scrap paper first just to see. Okay. All is merry and bright. And now on the other piece, all right, so we got those stamped, and that will lighten when as it dries, it will get lighter. All right, so now I want to emboss these. I want to run these through the embossing machine. So with that same embossing folder, the distressed tile that I absolutely love, it's so pretty, I'm going to put both of these in. No, maybe not. Let's do one at a time. Let's do one at a time. So I'm going to put that in there and close it. And I'm going to run this through my machine over here, so just bear with me. Anytime that you want to have an embossed piece that you stamp, you always want to stamp first and emboss second, because you cannot stamp on a bumpy surface. And even though we've run this through, you can still read this very well. So that's the reason I do that. So now let's do All is Merry and Bright. And again, we're going to put this down. I'm using an old plate to do my embossing with. The reason I'm doing that is so I don't, embossing sometimes is a little bit thicker and it's a little bit more to go through. So it can cause your plates to warp. So I just use an old embossing plate, an old cut plate for this. And I just keep one of those sitting over close by my machine so that I have it when I need it. And that way I don't mess up my hood plates. I just changed plates on this So, all right, so that one's done. Let's lay the embossing folder up, and I think we're ready to assemble our card. So what I want to do first is I want to work with my pieces and get the front of this card decorated. So the first thing I want to do is figure out how I want to lay out my spray. And I think for this, I want to go this one here. I want one of these to go up like this, and maybe one down like that. And I also want to put some of these behind here, so maybe one like that, and maybe one like that. And we still got these little pieces, so I want to kind of stick those in as well. Something like that. So once you get your flowers laid out the way you want them, the best thing to do is to pick up and then start adhering your flowers to your piece. The best way to do that is just use some liquid glue. So what I'm going to do is take everything back off. I kind of know which way I want everything to go. So I'm going to lay to me, this is always the fussiest part of it. I do see I need to trim right here just a teeny bit. So I'm gonna bring that one down like that, and I may even glue this one on the other side. So I'm gonna put a little bit of glue right here. And then I'm gonna bring this piece up under like that. And I believe I want this one to come up on this side. So I'm just gonna put it in that same glue, just like that. Now that's gonna give me a place to start building from. So I'm going to bring that up just a hair and let that sit like that. Now I can very easily decide where I want my other little flowers to go. And I think I want one of these to come out from under here. So right about there, I want that one glued like that. Or do I want a blue one first? And then this on top of it. Yeah, I think I'm going to glue these two together. And then we'll glue all of it onto the other piece. Put some glue right there and sit that in it. And then we can easily decide now that this is going to go right there. So I'm going to put glue right where my finger's at. And then sit this in that. Something like that. Then I'll come back to my card to make sure everything is where I want it. We're going to do this one coming off under here. So I want a little glue right there. And that's going to come off right about like that. Again, let's decide if it's where we want it. That's looking good. Then we got one more sprig. And I think this is going to go right here. So right about in here, put some glue down. And then just stick that into it, like so. And then we have our beautiful collage to go on the back. What I like to do after I get everything glued together, I like to take some Stampin' Dimensionals. And I'm going to put them here and there. Oops, I got glue on my fingers. I'm going to put those here and there and everywhere. You can see I've used up all of these. So I'm just going to grab another sheet. I want to make sure that these are anchored well enough that it will not come off. I think we need a couple right in there, and I think that'll be a plenty. So let's put one here and one here. Maybe one more. Right about there. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it back on here and see if that's what I want. And I love that. I think it's beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead now and take off. I'm going to use my little picky tool. It's not in the take your pick tool because I have it out to use the stylus, but I can still use this. And that's the beauty of the Stampin' Up tool. Oh, that one's not adhered. Uh-oh. Let's see what's going on and why that one didn't get stuck in. That's supposed to be right there. Okay, there we go. I'll go ahead and pull the rest of these off with my fingers. I think using the take your pick, I was pulling up some of my pieces that I didn't want to move. So that's good right there. That piece does not want to stay for anything. It's okay, we're going to make him stay. Because we're going to lay this out something like that. And go ahead and put it down. Is that not gorgeous? Now this piece is going to go right here. And I think I'm going to put it up on dimensionals too. This is where I'm going to use some of these little pieces. I'm going to cut out a piece about that length and put it down right about there. And we'll go over on the other side and do the same thing. I'm going to cut a piece here, measure out to about here, and use that. Pull those backer pieces off, and now we're ready to stick this on the front. And I'm going to stick it right there, just like that. Now that's the front of our card, but that's still not the showstopper because the showstopper is going to be our inside. So we have our front and our back completed. Now all we have to do is glue down these pieces and then adhere this to our card, and guess what? Our card will be done. So using some liquid glue, I'm going to turn this. I'll move these pieces out of my way, and I am going to glue these down. Like that. And I'm going to go ahead and do this piece on the other side. Like that. And then this one is going to go right here. And I'm going to use liquid glue on this as well. And let's put this in right here. When you line these up, it's real important to make sure that you keep these nice and straight so that they look like they're uniformed across. And it's like that anytime you're putting down a mat. And that's probably one of the hardest things for us as crafters to do is to learn to get our mat straight. And it comes with practice. All I can say is it's something that comes with practice. And even with practice, there's times that I'm off. And I try my best to get them nice and straight. Even Steven. And like that. Now this is ready to go into our card. And you say, oh, this is the hard part. No, this is the easy part. Fold everything together like that. Go to your back. We're going to put a piece of designer series paper or something right here. I don't like that I don't like that showing. So I'm going to grab the other piece of designer series paper. And I think I'm going to cut a piece to go on the back of this. So we're going to cut a piece of this that's 4 by 5 1/4. So we need it to be 5 1/4. By 4. So now when this card opens, this piece that is our front is also going to be decorated on the back. That way you don't see where you glued those two pieces together. And I think I did the same thing with this one. I put down a solid piece that I embossed because I've embossed my back piece. So you can use designer series paper or you can use cardstock, whatever. I used a lot less designer series paper on this and a lot more embossing, but this time I decided to do it the opposite, use a little bit of embossing and more designer series paper because this paper is too gorgeous not to use. I love it. So this is the versatility of this card. You can do so much with it. And let's go ahead and put this down like this. Give it a good press. Now we're ready to put these two together. To put this together, all you want to do is center on the back piece of that. Make sure that it's the piece that's the back. And I am going to put liquid glue. You notice I put quite a bit of glue. I'm going to hold this together and I want to center this right in the center, top, bottom, side to side. And that right there looks about right. And then while this is still pressed down, let's put some more glue on the top of this piece. When you see this card, it looks so complicated, but when you break it down and you start doing it, it's really easy. So all we want to do now is pick this piece up, pull that piece down, line your card front and back together like that, tap it, and then press it. Open it up and press it. And now your card is done. You got the back here. What would be so cute here if you wanted to write a message is you could use a scallop die and fill up the back, or you could put a designer series paper back there if you wanted. But I think it looks cute like this. And when you open it, this is what you get. Is that not gorgeous? I absolutely love the way this card came together. I think it's beautiful. And I'm wondering, is this something that you would try? It's so much fun. It looks like a lot of work, but it is a labor of love. And when you get it together, it is just stunning. What a showcase card this would be to send to that special someone. So thanks so much for tuning in. If you want to purchase any of the items you saw me use today, my online store will be linked below. Click on that. It will take you directly to my Stampin' Up store. I didn't say this in the beginning, but I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I love all the products. The color coordination is spot on every time. So I think this turned out just absolutely gorgeous. I'll have my PDF tutorial over on my blog. You can click on that and get all of the dimensions and also the layout. I'll have everything laid out for you in a diagram, so it'll be easy to follow. You can make yourself a template like I did, and this card will come together so super easy with your template. So everybody have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend. God bless and keep you. And as I always say in closing, let everything that you do and say bring glory to our Father in heaven. He is worthy. Until we craft again, God bless and keep you. Bye-bye.